Hello there, Sam Brown here. Now, do this. Now, which thumb is on top for you? For me, it's my right thumb. How about you? It doesn't matter anyway, because what I want you to do is I want you to swap all of your fingers round so that it's your other thumb that's on top. Don't just swap your thumbs, you need to swap all your fingers. So, how does it feel when you do that? Pretty weird, yeah? Change back and go, ah. Now back to the weird way, and back to the comfy way. Back to the weird way. Now, I want you to keep going backwards and forwards whilst I talk to you for 5 minutes. Give each a little squeeze each time, and if you've got a slow broadband connection and the video stops to buffer in, then just keep going while it buffers. The longer you keep doing this, the better it's going to work, and you're going to learn something really important about how you learn. Now, you've probably arrived at this clip because you've got my iPhone app Drum Secrets too. If so, thank you very much for spending the equivalent of half a pint of beer on my humble attempt to teach you some cool drum stuff. I hope you like the material. It's been great fun putting it together. Remember to go to iTunes and write me a review, preferably a really nice one. I'm very sensitive and I'll be deeply hurt if you don't like my teaching style, but feel free to take the piss out of my bald patch, which features quite heavily in the videos. There's also my Musician's Hypnosis iPhone app, which you might also be interested in. That's great for all manner of things like sight reading and stage fright and a whole load of other things. There's also my podcasts, which are rather pompously called The Musician's Guru, which is a quite horrible title, but I couldn't think of anything else at the time, so sorry about that. You can find them in iTunes if you do a search. Very easy. Now, you're probably thinking, why on earth is this idiot making me do this silly routine with my hands? Well, I do this with the pupil right at the very beginning. I start them off, and while they're doing this thing with their hands, I can ask them a few questions about their drumming, about what they want to play, who their favourite drummers are, that kind of thing. Which reminds me of a lad whose cousin lived next door to Mitch Mitchell, which was in itself quite interesting because actually I'd driven past there a few times on my way to some gigs I was doing with a really, really great band. And I remember one time when I was there, I got talking to this guy called Jeff, who actually showed me how to teach someone that you can learn really easily with the right strategy. And I remember the van broke down on the way back that night, right next to the guy's house, but I couldn't bring myself to knock on Mitch Mitchell's door and say that I was the teacher of his next door neighbour's cousin, even though he was one of my favourite drummers. It's amazing what you find out when you chat to pupils while they do this silly thing with their hands. And all it's doing is teaching you something amazing, which you'll find out about in a minute when I ask you to stop and squeeze. But you can just keep going for a few more moments because this will wind up being something really useful for you. Well, not just for you, it'll be very useful for your students too, if you just keep going for a moment. Okay, and stop. Now, I don't mind if you stop in the comfy way or what was the uncomfortable way, but just stop and give it a squeeze now. Now, if you've stopped in the comfortable position, just change to what was the weird way. Good. Now, in all honesty, does this feel as weird as it did 3 minutes ago? For many of you, it'll be as much as 80% more comfortable than it was. For most people, it just doesn't feel as weird anymore, does it? Okay, game over. Now, what have you learned by doing that? Well, you've just proven that things which feel uncomfortable to start with can very quickly become quite easy. You've just proved that the brain can learn to accept new patterns if you repeat them again and again and again. You have to repeat it the same way, of course, otherwise the brain wouldn't spot a pattern. Brains love patterns. As soon as it spots one, it starts to expect it again and again and again. Now, whenever a student complains that they can't do something because it feels uncomfortable, all I need to do is raise my eyebrows and do this. And they get the message. It goes to show that this has got nothing to do with musical talent, it's got more to do with learning the talent to learn. And on that note, I'll say goodbye. Oh, please remember to review that app. Thanks a lot for doing that. Bye now.